Welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Riesa Pascal along with Mitch English. Author and life coach Mark Neff recently published a book called Diving into Darkness to Find Light. In the book, Mark discusses how he faced many of life's tough issues, so we've been breaking it down chapter by chapter. Today, we're talking about career burnout. Mark, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people watching can relate to career burnout. It's a common theme these days, especially after the pandemic. What triggered your burnout and how were you able to deal with it?
Well, it's really interesting. I got sober in July of 2018, and I think that gave me a lot of clarity on what I was doing. And I started realizing that probably for 3 years prior to getting sober, I had been putting Band-Aids on my career. I loved cutting hair, but I was just kind of losing my passion for it. So when I really had time to look back at what had been happening, I was adding new services. I was adding new staff. I bought a new salon in the city that had a spa with it. So, I was doing all these things to try to reignite my passion. And what I realized is I was just adding more on my burnout plate because it wasn't fixing the problem. And the problem was I was just ready to do something else with my life.
I see. As you mentioned, you were just kind of, instead of fixing the problem, you're just putting more Band-Aids on top. And
Yes.
the core root of the issue is still there. And you actually had career burnout even prior to your hairdressing career, as you're alluding to. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I went to college and got a marketing degree. So I was working in the marketing and advertising arena, and I was on the business side of the business. I just felt like a prisoner to my desk doing spreadsheets all day and pushing business forward. I know I should have been on the creative side. So literally 2 weeks after September 11th, I thought, you know what, life is short. I have to give something creative a try. And that's what led me into the hair industry. So I really wasn't afraid to make a change because I had done it before. But when you do something for almost 20 years, it is a little difficult to think about the enormity of leaving that.
Absolutely. And for you, it was just a desire to do something creative?
It was when I left corporate America, an advertising agency, I realized really quickly I should have been on the creative side of the agency and not the business side. So that's what drove me to jump into something creative.
I love that. So often the thought of having to make a change is terrifying. We can just feel paralyzed by that. So it's easier to stay doing what you're doing. Since you've now been through it twice, what words of advice do you have for those experiencing career burnout?
Well, I think we need to just take a look at kind of our daily routines, our daily habits, both professionally and personally, and see what things are showing up that don't feel genuine and don't feel authentic. If you're tired and you don't feel like going to work every single day, what's causing that? And I think that really thinking about a lot of those things will help you realize if you're burnt out or not. And then putting together a productive plan to try to remedy that. If you're in a position to make a sudden change, it makes it a little bit easier, but you can also strategically plan to get out of what you're doing and find your passion and the things that light you up career-wise.
Nice. What would you say to someone watching this who's just thinking, I feel stuck where I am, maybe they're not too pleased with their career. Maybe they feel like they're putting it on those Band-Aids, but maybe they don't see an out for them. They just feel like they have to be where they are. Do you have any advice for that person?
Absolutely. I've talked about it in a lot of our other segments. I think you have to get quiet and still for a moment, and the answers will start to come to you. But I think, also realizing what are your Band-Aids and how can I start ripping those Band-Aids off and making the changes in my life that I want. It's a perfect opportunity as well to become vulnerable. I think if you start sharing some of your thoughts and feelings with others, you'll be amazed at the doors that open up just by having those conversations.
Excellent. I want to talk a little more about your book. I know today we're talking about career burnout, but what has been kind of the reception that you've received to this book?
It's amazing. I went in writing this book with no expectations. And I think the best response I'm getting is it's not only touching people that have been through some of the topics that I write about, but it's also touching people that have dealt with people that have been through the things that I talk about.
Wow.
So the reach has just been fantastic. And some of the reviews and comments that I get from people and how much it touched them it's amazing.
Wow. And I love that you're saying it's not just affecting those who are struggling with these many issues, but also going beyond that. You mentioned families and friends are also gaining something from what you're sharing. What are some of those other topics that you do cover?
I talk about sexual identity. I talk about cancer, addiction, mental health, tragic loss. And I think it's really interesting, this being Gay Pride Month, the sexual identity chapter really hits home for a lot of people because even though we've made a lot of progress in the community, everyone's journey is independent when they decide to face their sexuality and, start living their authentic lives. And I'm so happy that this is helping, hopefully, many people pave that way for themselves.
I know, we're so happy for that too. And if I can just go back to career burnout, and you were mentioning how you had those two times in your life that you did that. Do you have anything looking back you wish you had done differently that we can
You
kind
know,
of,
I,
yeah.
I don't think so. I think that we go through the experiences in our lives that we're supposed to go through. I now realize that cutting hair for 20 years and talking to, 10 people a day in my chair was setting me up for this chapter of my life where now I get to coach people and I get to help people in internal beauty versus external beauty. And I just absolutely love that.
Wow, I love that external beauty and internal beauty. Love that. Where can we go for more information and to get a copy of your book, Mark?
You can go to Amazon.com to buy the book, and you can check out my website at findyourlightnow.net.
Excellent. Mark, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you. We'll be sure to have this on our website at dailyflashshow.com.